Baby, were you sad? She was looking at videos. We were looking at some videos. I was showing her two brothers that were born before her that went to heaven. And when I showed her their plaque, she just started wearing this face. This baby understands. But most importantly, I think she feels our sadness, my sadness. Looked at the date this morning. It was October 25th, and it was the 5-year anniversary of my first ever birth and loss of a child. Losing Isaiah was so difficult, but it was so much easier to bounce back because I'd never seen the power of God before up until that point, to keep us, to strengthen me while I was in labor. And that labor lasted 8 hours or more. Yep. Up until the time my water broke, I remember being in so much pain that I just could not take it. Like, we'd been praying the whole time that God would turn things around, and nothing was happening. I know my face I still had a lot of doubt and fear, so that's a whole nother thing. But I didn't know what God could do, and I was just kind of like grasping at straws and seeking him desperately. And no, he didn't abandon me at that moment. If he did, Christ's been there, he understood, so that gave me some solace after the fact. But I went to this point of just being in severe pain. They wouldn't medicate me, they wouldn't do anything. I just had to wait it out. And I said, God, I cannot take this anymore. And suddenly I got a glimpse of Christ with the cross. So I got to switch so that I could watch my daughter. But I remember seeing a glimpse of the Lord carrying the cross that was meant for me. Enduring suffering, separation, embarrassment, humiliation, all meant for me to have for good. And then I thought, okay, to know him and the suffering that he endured, what Paul talked about in Philippians. It was right at that moment after I saw that, I felt convicted for saying, God, I can't take no more, because I thought about what did Christ take for me? And that was when my water broke and relief washed over me. I had to push. It was difficult, even with just, I think he was about 9.5 ounces, and he was born at 9:12. So for them to write 9 and 1/2 at 9:12 p.m. I just always found that to be interesting. He lived about, I guess maybe, I don't even know how many minutes, but it was more than 10 minutes. And I just remembered God saying, I just remember feeling like God was letting me know that you can do all things in me. Like, my grace is sufficient. And he filled me with this peace. And after that, I remember the verse of the day on the 26th, the next morning, was, the Lord blesses his people with peace, strength and peace. And so from that moment on, I just knew God was going to be with me. Like, it wasn't going to be over. This was just the beginning of not only a miracle of what he was doing in my womb, in my life, but what he was doing in my heart and in my soul, and what he does in this world where death can still mean new life. And here I am, 5 years later. A lot of people like to say the number 5 is indicative of grace. And look at this little one. Precious. So sweet. Teaching me every day about grace and patience and waiting on God, and just a walking, talking answer prayer, because I believe God for that, and he didn't disappoint me. The Bible says those who wait on the Lord will not be ashamed. And I don't feel no shame. Like, I feel purpose even through the pain. And it happened again 6 months later after I lost Isaiah, that I got pregnant with my Ezekiel, and ended up losing him 5 months after that. And in a similar manner, and it was like I got a double portion of suffering, because I not only lost him, I was very sick and in a lot of pain, and it was very tragic, and it was a lot harder to recover. And no matter what, though, that was a place for me to know that, yeah, you don't always feel peachy keen after something tragic just because you're saved. It still hurts. I carried it for a long time. I went through a lot to try to get my body right, and it was just leaning on the Lord, leaning on his word, leaning on the testimonies of other women who've overcome, Like, in Revelation, we learn you overcome by the blood of the Lamb, the word of his testimony. His blood allows us to have the testimony. So after losing Isaiah and losing Ezekiel, it was just a lot. It helped me to have an empathy that I never once had for people enduring suffering or loss of any kind, because, it's manifested in different ways, but suffering and loss and pain all results from the fallenness of this world. So now that it's Infertility Awareness Month, Infant Loss, and Child Loss and Miscarriage Awareness Month, I just wanted to share my testimony yet again from the standpoint of victory, because I'm looking at victory every single day. And if I could see what the Lord did for me, just by seeing her walking and talking and developing and advancing, then I know that he can do it for you. Anybody watching this video, he can do anything. He's faithful. He restores. He renews. He relieves. He delivers. So I just wanted to share a little bit of that, because I'm mindful. I'm mindful for my sisters that are going through. I'm for my friends and family that have lost, that are hurting, loss, especially in pregnancy and infertility and infant loss, or losing children at a young age, losing children at any age, losing any kind of loved one, losing even, life that you might have, as you've known it before, losing like a marriage, or losing a friendship, losing a job, losing a mental status, losing a physical status, all these different types of loss. I just want to encourage you to know that God restores. It's every loss. He is able to bring forth life. He is, and it's life in a way that you've never known it. God takes everything. He uses everything. He's already seen everything. He planned everything. And if you trust him and love him, he will work it together for good. I love you guys. God bless you.